Good afternoon, everybody. This is Sue Erickson from the Soggy Stamper, and today I'm going to show you how to do the faux silk. Just a sec. This is Sue Erickson. To do the faux silk technique to make this beautiful card. And the faux silk is the background here. So let's begin. First, you're going to need a piece of cardstock that is 3 3/4 by 5 inches of Whisper White, a scrap of paper of Whisper White that is about 2 1/4 by 3 inches, and a scrap of soft suede. I've already cut this one out. And then you're going to need old olive that is 4 inches by 5 1/4. This will be our first layer. And then a piece of soft suede of crumb cake cardstock, 11 by 4 1/4, scored at 5 1/2. Or you could have it 8 1/2 by 5 1/2, scored at 4 1/4. I like to do it this way because then when you get done, they stand up nice. So, at any rate, so let's begin. First thing we can do is to mount our old olive onto our card front. I'm using snail adhesive, but you're welcome to use multi-purpose liquid glue or any other adhesive that you like. Oh goodness, I didn't trim this down. I'll be right back. Okay, now I have the right dimensions for this. So there we go with our first layer. We'll set that aside. Next, you need a piece of tissue paper that is just slightly bigger than your cardstock, your 3 3/4 by 5 inch cardstock, about like this. This is 3 3/4 by 5 inches. Okay, so we're going to, you could do this without stamping on the tissue paper, but I like to have some background to it, thinking of it as a silk print dress maybe. So I'm going to stamp using this beautiful Timeless Tropical stamp set. It comes with a bundle, the Timeless Tropical bundle. Unfortunately, right at this time, the dies are back ordered because they are made in China, and nothing has been made in China for 2 months at least, but they're still orderable. And so I'm waiting for my dies to come. I'm going to be using this flower on the card like this. And this one is not hard to fussy cut or hand cut out. So that's not a problem. Okay, so I'm going to use the the palm trees. Oh, I don't need this yet. And with my markers, I'm going to color. This is soft suede marker for the trunks of the pine trees. Oh, I say pine trees, I mean palm trees. Got to get in the right climate. and old olive for the leaves. And you just brush with the brush end of the marker, just brush onto the stamp, kind of on with the side of the marker. This is a very good technique to use when you want more than one color on a stamp. And I'm going to be randomly stamping on this tissue paper. I think I'll make my first stamp there. And it doesn't matter, it didn't come out quite everything showing up, but that's okay because this is just the background. I'll ink the stamp up again. And I'll stamp, kind of rotating the stamp a bit. I think, well, maybe I'll do it there. Any rate, so to speed things up a little bit, I did that all over the piece of tissue paper. So it looks like this. Next step is to crumple it all up to a tight ball, as tight as you can get it. The more wrinkles you get in it, the more realistic it's going to be as far as being a silk. Then you smooth it out, but not a whole lot. We'll set that aside. Next thing is to put glue all over the back of this. If you happen to have a Xyron, that's a very handy way to do it. We don't sell that as Stampin' Up, but we do sell the multi-purpose liquid glue. And did you know that there is a blunt end as well as a fine tip? So I'm going to put this on. And just spread it all over the cardstock. So that every spot is covered with adhesive. This is a good technique if you like getting sticky, messy. Just a second, I'll be right back. I had to get something to wipe off the end of my glue. Okay, then you take your tissue paper and you lay it down on top. And just kind of press it in. So that it all sticks down. Leaving the wrinkles like this. And then set it aside for a little bit for it to dry. So we'll set that aside. Meanwhile, let's work on the greeting. So I've chosen to use this Relax one out of the stamp set. Rest and relax, you deserve it. And I've got it. And I'll stamp it with Old Olive ink. One of the things that I really like about the die cuts is that you can stamp first and then you can cut, and if you don't like it, you could turn it over and stamp again. But you don't have to worry about getting it straight. And I didn't get that straight, but we'll straighten it out when we cut it out with the Big Shot, which I'll bring in here. And I'm going to cut this out with the third from the inside die. Oh, I've got to move this over more. One more of the Stitch So Sweetly dies. And I'll stand up so I can make sure it's centered properly and straight. And run it through the Big Shot. Now on this card, I have a brown label behind the greeting, and so I cut that out with the next larger. It would be the fourth from the inside or the third from the outside of the rectangle Stitch So Sweetly dies. And I have already cut this out once to save some time, but I wanted to show you when you layer them, there's quite a bit of space around the edges. And I felt that that would take up too much space on my card front. So I wanted to shorten and make this layer a little bit thinner. So what I did was, after I die cut it once, I put the die back over it so that the edges of the scallops just touch the inside of one corner of two sides of the die. And then we'll run it through the Big Shot again. And hopefully it did not slide. As I was doing this. There. And see, it cut off just about that much off the layer, the label, so that now the Whisper White layer fits just inside the stitching. It's a little trick you can do when you want to make your label smaller, or because sometimes the dies just take up more, you know, or larger than what your greeting is. So we'll mount that like that. I love this stitch, is so sweet, dies. It comes with this set of stitched and scalloped rectangles, which you can modify like I showed you. For instance, if I wanted to have the thing shorter, I would just cut out the larger one and then slide. Like if I wanted to shorten this, I could just, after I've cut it out, I could move it down and get it so that it's in exactly the same grooves on the sides, and run it through again, and I'd have a shorter die, or die cut. At any rate, besides the rectangles, this has 4 different shaped labels that work very nicely. And you can buy this as a bundle with the So Sentimental stamp set. And the sentiments go well with the dies. So we'll put that away. I like to store my dies on magnetic sheets and keep them in the original envelopes. This magnetic sheet that I have is 20 mil, 20 something or other, millimeter thickness, and it's a little bit flimsy. I would recommend 30, or maybe if you could get 25, that. Okay, so now let's move on to the flower. I already have cut it out. I stamped it with Memento ink, and because I'm using blends to color it. And the blends I'm using are light Flirty Flamingo and dark Flirty Flamingo. I'm going to start with the light and lay down just a base of color. I would normally do this before I die cut, but I didn't want you to have to watch while I fussy cut with the scissors. So this particular flower is, there is a die for it in the Timeless, the die set that goes along with this. I just don't have it yet. We'll add some shading. And I'll come back in and blend it with the light again. Like that. Okay, so I think that our tissue paper is dried enough, and it's fairly flat. As you can see, I didn't quite get the tissue down at the edge, so there's a little gap there, so I'm going to trim it down just even further than what I had it originally. And I'm going to trim off the excess of the tissue paper along the sides, just like that. You could do this with a pair of scissors. Have you tried the new paper trimmer? I think it's wonderful. The only problem I have found with it is, now I don't know, maybe it's me because I'm left-handed, but when you go, let's say you want 5.5, you have to know where the half is because the numbers are covered up from this way out. So that you have to know that you've gone past the 5 when you want to go to the 5.5. Okay, and we'll trim down this just slightly. Well, it still's not enough. So I have about I need to trim off a bit off the other side. Okay, so there we have that trimmed up now. The alternative is that you could have folded the excess tissue paper around to the back and glued it down, but this will work just fine this way. So we'll adhere that to our card front. I think because the tissue paper is kind of a little bit ragged along the edges, so I think that if you have the old-fashioned, the old-style guillotine cutter from Stampin' Up, or if you were lucky to get the little mini paper cutter, I would recommend using that instead. And I'm going to put the label on the back with adhesive on the back, and I'm going to put it at an angle and then I'm going to pop the flower up on the corner with a glue, it's Stampin' Dimensional. Like that. And there you have it. You can put inside, you can put, oh, you gotta be kidding me. Well, guess what? I made it upside down. But maybe I can pop this layer off. Even the best of us will do that. And turn it around. I think I'll add some more snail to it. Yeah, now it'll be right. There we go. There we have it. You can add a greeting inside here. You might, let's see, I think I might stamp a little of the palm trees in there just for the heck of it to decorate the inside a bit. I'll just take a corner of the ink pad and there. so that's it. It's a very simple technique, this faux silk. And like I say, I like to put some kind of an all-over pattern on the back. And there we have that. If you have not gotten the tropical, Timeless Tropical bundle yet, you can go to my store, Creations by Sue at StampinuP.net, to order it. I have the dimensions and the directions written out for this on my blog at soggystamper.com. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you and talk to you the next time. I'm going to be doing a series of different techniques, so look forward to having you come join me again. So thanks so much. Have a good day.